What I want to talk about today, and hopefully you see it clearly on your screen now, is branding to promote your value. And really, branding is very important for negotiating, specifically salary negotiation. And we're going to talk about how to do salary negotiation a little later. A lot of people become very confused about salary negotiation. What should I put on the application? What should I tell HR? What should I tell the hiring manager? So we'll talk about that in just a few minutes. For any of you that have any questions, of course, if you're here, just raise your hand and ask your question. For those of you who are virtual, you can politely unmute and just say, hey, I got a question. No need to wait until the end. If your question is on the next slide or the slide after, ask it at the appropriate time. We'll have time at the end for questions as well. Or if you'd like, Alan will be monitoring the chat, and you could put it in chat and he will read it on your behalf, but he will probably not do so in your voice. So he'll announce your name as well. Started, or are we going to get it? You're not going to get it. There we go. So let's define what your brand is. So what is your personal brand? And so it's really what people see of you. So your personal brand is not so much what you see of yourself, but how other people see you, what they think of you, how they know you. And it's a combination of many factors. People, how they react to you in real life when you confront people or talk to people. Could be friends or family or people you're meeting for the first time. It's what people learn about you from others. So someone may say, hey, I heard about this coach, or I heard about this plumber or this electrician. Whatever they hear about you, that's part of the information that forms in their mind what your brand is. Oops, sorry. And it's also an impression that they get from you when they find information about you online. As job seekers, you have an online presence. At the very least, you have a LinkedIn profile. You may also have profiles on some of the job boards, Indeed, Monster, and others. Excuse me. And so people begin to form an opinion about you even before they meet you. And there's a quote by Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos is the founder and CEO of Amazon. Your brand is what other people say about you when you're not in the room. And I think that's really kind of sums it up. And it's also very powerful. So it's not so much what you think your brand is. Oh, I'm a programmer, or I'm a teacher, or I'm an accountant. That's fine that you have an opinion of yourself, but what are you projecting to others that may be part of the decision process in hiring? So it's important that you project that very well and properly. So why is it important? Well, for one thing, if you have a very strong personal brand, it does help you stand out from people that are like you. If you're an accountant and they're looking to hire an accountant, there may be a lot of accountants that they can choose from. What is it about you? What have they learned about you that's different from other people that they're considering? Also, if you want to be an influencer or be considered an influencer, and that's very common in business where you want to share your ideas, get your ideas across, maybe start a project, start a movement, whatever is important. Part of what will get acceptance, and maybe not acceptance right away of your idea, but the idea of listening to you, is the fact that you are understood to be an influencer. Excuse me. Also, people knowing your brand creates some anticipation. Now, I can tell you, I was a hiring manager for about 12 years in my career. I managed an IT team. And when I learned information about people that I had to interview, there was a certain amount of anticipation that, gee, I really hope this person lives up to my expectation, what I'm learning about the person. So it does help you create a level of anticipation for the people that you're about to meet. It also validates you when you are referred. So someone may say, you got to speak to this guy, David. He's an IT guy you want to talk to. That's great. If I say I'm an IT guy that you want to talk to, you may, sure, you're selling yourself. But if somebody else says that on my behalf, that becomes very helpful. So that when other people know you and can be a little bit of a referral partner for you, becomes very helpful. And you want them to understand your brand as well. The bottom line is, if you are not known, you're irrelevant. And I don't mean that as an insult. I don't mean for you those of you who are paying attention, whatever your career is, that you're an irrelevant person, whatever your family status is, you're irrelevant. But if someone is in the job market and a hiring manager is looking for someone like you, looking for the accountant, looking for the marketing person, looking for the school teacher, and your name doesn't come up, then functionally you're irrelevant. So you need to be both found and you need to have a brand that's representative of what the people are looking for. So that becomes very important. So this is reason why you want to promote your brand, why your personal branding is very important. So we'll talk about building that personal brand. Creating a personal brand does require self-reflection. Now, as human beings, we tend to be awful about that. We can learn how to do it, but by ourselves, we'll say, I don't like the way my outfit looks, I don't like the way my hair is combed, I've got a pimple, whatever it is, we tend to always focus on the negative. And so, not that you shouldn't pay attention to the negative and come up with ways to overcome it, but you also need to look at yourself very thoroughly and as objectively as well, and most of us don't do it very well. So be aware that you may not be doing it as objectively as you need to be. You also need to know who you're going to be promoting yourself to. Who is your audience? So your audience are the people you want to talk to. Use the language that they understand. And understand, are they an individual, someone that may help you one-on-one, or are they an influencer, someone who could take your information and talk to other people? Because most people do have an established network, could be small, medium, or large, and you're hoping to make a little bit of an impact with the person that you're talking with, and that they think of you when a topic comes up that you may be relevant for. And your message, what you promote and project, certainly professionally, needs to be consistent. So if you are on a couple of different social media platforms, if you go to different meetings and sessions and settings, you want to make sure you talk about yourself and you promote yourself consistently in the same way. If you're known to somebody as an accountant in one group, but another group you talk about, I take care of dogs because I'm a pet person, and another group you talk about gardening, nothing wrong with having those interests, but in each of those settings, if they become the highest point of information and those settings begin to overlap, then it becomes a little confusing. Well, do you want to go into animal husbandry? Do you want to be an accountant? Do you want to go work in a nursery as a gardener? And so you want your message to be as consistent as possible. When people do a Google search for you, Google wants consistency in the results that it shows up, and you don't want people to be confused when they learn about you. The reason why people don't want to be confused is when you are applying for a job and they know you from one of these things and they learn about these others, they may say, how long are you going to be here? Maybe you'll leave the accountant job in order to go work with animals. And that's what your real love is. So you want your message to be consistent. And you need to understand what's important to your audience and how to communicate to your audience. Different groups of people interact differently. Professional-oriented people might interact differently than personal-oriented or lay people. And so make sure you know when you're talking with certain people that you're using the right language. For instance, your audience is anybody you want to be seen by, anyone you want to reach. Okay, so this guy is in front of a very big audience. If your audience tends to be lay people, people that don't know your business terms, your industry, the tools you use, the technology, don't use those tools in their native or technical terms. So you don't have to say that I work with QuickBooks version blah, blah, blah. Say, I'm a bookkeeper and I use an accounting software. That may be enough for a layperson. If you're talking with business people, people in your industry, within your profession, you're actually expected to use those industry terms, because if you don't, what do you really know? Are you really as knowledgeable in this area as you claim to be? So there's the case of making sure you know your audience and talk in ways and communicate in ways that they communicate. Hopefully I'm not going too fast for those of you or any of us here, but if you've got a question, please pop that in chat. Of course, raise your hand as needed. Ultimately, promoting your brand is what gets you your offer for a job or offer for anything that you're trying to promote. and trying to earn. So you want to create, and you want to practice also, a branding statement. Some people call it an introduction, some people call it an elevator pitch. It may be the same. You may have 2 or 3 or 4 different versions depending on your audience, but you creating it, write it down, put it on a piece of paper, think it through. May take you a few minutes, a few hours, a few days, whatever it takes. You may craft it, you may run it by other people. But when you meet someone that you don't know, and it's somebody in your profession, this may be the way that you introduce yourself. Hello, my name is David. I'm an IT guy and I have my own business. It may be as simple as that to get started. A lot of people think elevator pitches and introductions and branding statements need to be very long, and they don't necessarily need to be. Once you've introduced yourself, then you can talk about other things that you're known for, and they can be part of your branding statement as well, or they can be that second or third one that you create. And then interact on different platforms. Certainly being here in person, we're interacting. If you join other groups, there could be professional associations, chambers of commerce, industry organizations as well. You could find lots of different places where you can be active. Social media, of course, today is National Social Media Day, so you may find the right social media platform for your industry, for professionals like you. And so provide content and information there. Make sure that your message is consistent both online and in your resume, similar to the information I provided just a few minutes ago. If your resume says you're an accountant and all your social media stuff talks about your love of breeding dogs, people may wonder if you're really professionally going to want to be in the dog business. So again, you need to be consistent. And you need to be well connected, not just on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a great starting place to begin to grow your network. But go out, meet people. That's one reason why we're returning back to in-person only, because it's a lot more effective to meet and interact with people in person than it is virtually. So go out, meet people, join groups, could be industry associations. There are many groups like this that are job seeker support. If you're looking for other groups, you can go to landingexpert.com. landingexpert.com have a lot of other groups that are in job support. And you want to make sure that you express your accomplishments not just as tasks, not just as bullet points, but relatable stories. You have a story about each of these accomplishments that you have, something that someone that you talk with can relate to. And you see that acronym there, SAR. We're going to talk more about that, situation, action, result. So I like this form, SAR, communicate in terms of SAR. Maybe you've heard of this before, situation, action, result. Now it's got other names as well. You may have heard PAR, problem, action, result. CAR, challenge, action, result. Or STAR, situation, task, action, result. They're essentially the same thing. There's different acronyms, but they represent the same thing. We're just going to talk about it in the context of SAR. Why? That's the one I like. Find another presenter who likes CAR, and that's the one that they will use. And let's talk about that. It's really a very effective technique that you can use to express really everything relevant about your skills or a specific accomplishment. It's not meant to represent everything. Everything requires multiple SAR stories. You're going to use this for each individual accomplishment. So as an example, you may have a resume or you may have your LinkedIn profile and you use SARs instead of a simple bullet point. People like simple bullet points because they think, well, I'll keep my resume to 1 page or 2 page by writing simple bullet points. If I write a paragraph, it'll be 3 pages. It doesn't matter if the size of your resume is not relevant. So what a SAR is, or the S, it's the situation. You set the scene of what occurred. And you're reflecting back on your career of a situation. What happened? Why was this even an issue? Why was this a challenge or a problem or a situation that I was participating in? And so that's what that is. The A is action. What did you do? What was the action you took? What were the steps that you took based on the problem or the situation or the challenge that you were faced? And R is the outcome, the result. What was the outcome of having taken the action that you did? Now, they tend not to be long, long paragraphs. There might be 2 or 3 sentences, but different than a bullet point. So I have an example. Why do I have an example? Because when I give presentations like this, people say, do you have an example? So yes, I have an example. So you may say, if you're in accounting or finance, that you're proficient in expediting the month-end close process. For those of you that are not in accounting or finance, the month-end close process, every business kind of closes their books, their income statement and their balance sheet at the end of the month so that they can report their monthly income and their monthly balance sheet results. And they do this every month, and then they do it quarterly and annually as well. And so they have to add up all their income and all their expenses. And the process can be a little lengthy for an accounting or finance department. So if you worked in one of those departments, you can write on your resume, I'm proficient in expediting the month-end close process. And that may be 100% true. But you're not really talking about what were the challenges that you faced. How do I believe you that you're proficient in this? You're not demonstrating anything. And then as a hiring manager, am I interested enough to ask you any questions about it just because you say so? Everybody in accounting and finance may say this. But if you write it as a SAR, you might initiate a nice discussion in your interview. You might also get more attention on your resume and your job postings. So you might write it like this. Here's the situation. Challenge with a long month-end close process. So that's what was going on in the office. Now, you don't have to write a whole opus about what your whole long month-end closing process was like. You don't have to write about that in the SAR. You just have to set the stage. There are going to be certain details that won't be in the SAR, but really part of the discussion that comes after the SAR. So the situation is, I'm challenged with a long month-end close process. I reorganized my team's end of month work time into 2 shifts. So it certainly implies, normally everyone works 1 shift, probably the same shift. But for those end of month days, I organized them into 2 shifts. You didn't say when the shift started or when the shift ended, if there was overlap, any of that kind of stuff, how big the team was, right? Not yet. Doing so put more staff hours into this process, reducing the organization's end of month close time by 2 days. And that was the result. You didn't talk about the details about how you got to that process. You don't need to in a SAR. You need to be much more robust than just the bullet point that's above it. But this is now an engaging statement. Now the hiring manager is going to want to know, well, tell me about your team. How big was the team? What were the hours that you chose? And how did you get buy-in from that? They may have a lot of questions about that. You're engaging, you're getting interest. So all that stuff is important, is relevant, but not in the SAR story. This is much more robust than a bullet point, but it really is meant to demonstrate a process and a challenge that you've overcome and how you did it, and it sets you up to discuss this more in the interview. I don't see the question, but typically I get the question. I'm sure someone will be thinking about it. Gee, I'd like to see another example. Another example. Yeah. There it is. Someone has, do you have another example? Just to let you know, managing expectations, there is not a third example. We could talk more offline. You also have 2 coaches here that you could talk with as well. So maybe you are a manager of staff. You have people that work for you, or manager of a department. I effectively resolve team conflicts and issues. And that may be perfectly true. A statement like that can actually be a 2-edged sword. Why does your team have conflicts and issues? So what is it are you fostering? But certainly a manager of a team should be able to manage any conflict or issue. And in a team dynamic, no matter how good the manager is, there will always be challenges like this. And it's expected that as a manager, you're going to be able to effectively manage team conflicts and issues. I know as a hiring manager, I wasn't the best, I wasn't the worst. Occasionally there were issues that came up, or maybe between us and the other department, and I was responsible for managing through those. But how about this? When I was leading a team on a project, 2 of the team members got into an argument over workload. So that sets up the situation. Whether it was caused by me as the manager, or it was just between them not understanding the project. You could talk about that when you have that opportunity. But clearly, two of the team members got into an argument over workload. Team members arguing tends not to be efficient. So I arranged a meeting so we can discuss how to adjust the team's assignments. Okay, didn't talk about how long the meeting was. Was it the whole team, just those two people? Is my team only two people? We didn't quite get into that. This made everyone on the team happier and more productive. Right? Just summarizing what we did. If you're interested, Mr. or Mrs. Hiring Manager, this is interesting to talk about. It's more engaging. It's actually based on a situation that I was in not too long ago, although I kind of crafted it for this purpose. I managed a team that actually had two managers under me. One of the other managers kind of caused this thing. He gave all the assignments to one person, not to another person. He had a trust issue. That was his. So first I called the team meeting. We understood what the issue was. And then I worked with the manager who worked directly to me to help him better manage the team's resources. But it was really based on an experience that I had. If I simply wrote on my resume that I effectively managed team conflicted issues, it doesn't explain the whole situation and is not as engaging. Reading a SAR story like this demonstrates your expertise. So it's not just you saying you know something, it shows how you use it. Very powerful. So use this as a means of communication. Use this as a means of promoting your brand in the workplace. Now, there are different skills that you can promote. There are hard skills. These are the skills that come from basically your knowledge and training that you've gained in your profession and your education. If you've gone through a school or education process, you've learned techniques and tools to use. When you've gotten into the workplace, the same thing. Here are the tools that we use in the workplace. If you're an accountant, maybe you're using Excel. If you're a cashier, you're using a point of sale system, whatever that is. Oh, there it is, point of sale system, Microsoft Excel. So if you're an accountant, you work with Microsoft Excel. Maybe you've studied a foreign language or you come from another country and you speak it fluently. Being multilingual can be a powerful, very powerful hard skill, because many people don't speak multiple languages. So these are skills that you do want to promote. Now, if you know Excel very well and you're going into a job that doesn't need Excel, you don't have to put a lot of time or promotion value into that. If you're going into an opportunity where they speak Spanish and you speak Portuguese, that may not work. So you could not have to promote that as well. There are also soft skills. And soft skills, these are the non-technical skills. They're really related to how I do my job. Not the tools that I use for my job, but how do I get my job done? They're not usually taught in a classroom. They're not often measured in paper. You may see in your performance reviews that you're a good communicator, things like that. So it may show up there, but it's not always measured as compared to hard skills. But it typically makes you much more effective and successful in the workplace by leveraging and using very strong soft skills. So soft skills, how have you been a team player? You get to demonstrate why and how you're a team player. If you're working in an organization that has more than one employee, having this sort of soft skill can be very powerful. I actually think I have a pretty good soft skill for being a team player. Right now, I'm a company of one, so don't get to use it too much. With my customers, I do. How do you solve conflicts with coworkers? Conflicts with coworkers come up all the time. It could be something about the ability of one person doing the work as compared to someone else. Or it can be something as goofy as, if you're the last one to take a cup of coffee, start a new pot. Anything could be a conflict in the office. How do you adapt to unexpected challenges? We all know what our job is, what we do, the tasks that we do. What happens when someone comes into your office with something that's outside the norm, or something that stops you from doing work, right? The computer is down, you can't do work. How do you work and adapt to those challenges? So those are soft skills. If you were someone who, when the computer goes down, just sits in your chair and just does nothing, you did not adapt very well to unexpected challenges. when you're job hunting, focus and promote your soft skills. Too many of us only promote our hard skills. And there's nothing wrong with promoting hard skills at all, as long as they're relevant for the next position that you're applying to. So you look beyond your hard skills, because hard skills can become outdated. So if you came to a company that needed strong Excel and you wanted to bring all of your Lotus 1, 2, 3 knowledge to it, may not be very applicable. I don't know of anyone that still uses Lotus 1, 2, 3, and I was a pretty good 1, 2, 3 user years ago. So you want to focus on soft skills, because some of your hard skills may be outdated. You may say, I'm an accountant or I'm a bookkeeper. I use QuickBooks. Okay. Do you use QuickBooks that's installed on the server at the office, or do you use QuickBooks in the cloud? And QuickBooks, I happen to know between the products, they're a little different. The buttons and the menu items are different, and you need to know how to use one versus the other. It's like learning a language. You have to learn how to communicate properly. And so if you're promoting the old version, not the new one that the company wants, it's outdated. Soft skills are easily transferred from one job to another. If the hard skill is outdated, it's not transferable. But how you manage working with other people, how you adapt to challenges, always transferable. So it positions your future value based on your prior experiences whenever you're applying for a job, maybe in a different industry. So you may say, I'm an accountant in the logistics industry. Well, maybe some of the things that are in the logistics industry might be different than being an accountant in financial services. So you may want to talk and highlight a lot of the soft skills, because some of the way you've used your accounting skills in industry may not be relevant. You're changing your role, you're changing your position. Maybe you're trying to get a promotion and you're doing it through a job change. You were an assistant vice president with one company, you're looking for more responsibility, and you're going to go to another company. You haven't done that job before, but highlight your soft skills. And again, with job skills are becoming, or hard skills becoming outdated. Anytime hard skills are becoming outdated, it's a little harder to tout those as very relevant for the position, but your soft skills will always be very relevant. And it all goes towards your brand. You are someone that's adaptable, that works in different situations, that has skills beyond the tools. And these are things that you're going to want to let your hiring managers know. These are things you're going to want to promote in social media, on your LinkedIn profile, and your resume. Okay. And of course, any new job. Anytime you're applying for a new job, you will want to promote soft skills in addition to your hard skills. So here's just kind of a list of some common hard skills and soft skills. It is by all means not the be all and end all. Why are all these hard skills on the right side tech hard skills? I'm a tech guy. That was the list I found. Each industry, each career, each job function could have different hard skills. No way I could have put a list here that you could read. It would have been a terrible eye chart. But at least you can see the differences between, do you know the Microsoft Office suite? Do you know a specific foreign language? Do you know how to use Google Analytics and interpret Google Analytics? Those are very hard skills. But your communication skills, conflict management, delegating authority, those are more soft skills. And by the way, for Google Analytics people, Google is updating its analytics, and so you need to know how to use the new version if you're going to promote that. Okay, so we talked about branding, promoting your brand, creating a brand that hopefully people will get to know and resonate with. And let's talk about salary negotiation, and then we could talk about how it's related. Now, most of the time when we are in job search, we are not negotiating salary, but most job seekers think they do. Really what you're doing most of the time is you're discussing your salary requirements. You're discussing salary, and that's different than negotiating. And it's good to understand when you might discuss salary and when you're actually going to negotiate salary, and realize that the two numbers that you present at discussion versus negotiation can be different. And a lot of people in job search get very frustrated about, what do I say when? You may be asked on the job application to put a salary requirement. Now, some of you may think you don't need to discuss salary in the application process. Not really true. You don't, it's actually not allowed to discuss salary history. It's illegal in New Jersey and many states. The companies cannot use salary history as part of their decision factor. It's considered an illegal question. But it's very fair to ask, what is your salary expectation for the position you're now applying to? Companies most often don't tell you their salary requirement. So you need to tell them your expectation for yourself. Some people think companies use that to exclude people. If they give a number, if you give a number and it's not what they're interested in, it will exclude you. The flip side, if you ask the HR people, why do you ask salary? They say it's who we include. So it's a little bit different. They want to only include people that will be interested and expect to earn what they're able to offer. So what do? Give them your minimum acceptable salary. That's my opinion. So for instance, if you're going to apply to a job as an accountant, let's call senior accountant, whatever that is. And if you're an accountant, I suppose you know what that is. And you know for that position in your region when you're looking, maybe in New York City it's higher, maybe central New Jersey it's a little lower. Let's say it's 80 to 90,000 a year. Think about, would you accept $80,000? If they came to you and said, we like you, we love what you had to say, you're a good fit for your organization, $80,000. Would you take that? So whatever that low number is, in my opinion, that's what I would put, the lowest salary. If they would offer me $79,000 and I would not take it, I would not put $79,000. I also would not put zero. A lot of people like to put zero on the application because they'll say, I don't want to talk about it now, I want to be able to talk about it with somebody else. Here's the problem with zero, especially with the online applications. Zero, sometimes the computer won't accept. And on paper application, you didn't answer a question. You may be excluded right away. So you got to answer the question. So it's a starting point. It's a point of discussion. It has nothing to do with the job offer. It just keeps you in the game. The next time you may be asked about your salary is in your first interview. It might be with HR, it might be with the internal recruiter. They may ask you, what's your salary? Now, what's nice is you're talking to somebody. You can turn it around and try and say, I'm very flexible, what are you offering? And see if they will give up that information. Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. But if they don't, give a range. It doesn't matter if one of the numbers is in the range and one of the numbers is outside the range. I interviewed years ago for a tech position with Macy's, the department store. The position was in Manhattan, not at Herald Square. That would have been fun. And I was talking with HR, and she said, what is your salary expectation? And I did have a number in mind, but I thought I didn't want to give it. So I gave her a range. I said, you know, depending on what the responsibilities are, and I won't know that until I speak to the hiring manager, between $100,000 and $200,000. Now, that's an incredibly big range. And she said, the same thing, that's a big range. Are you sure that's right? I said, yes. I said, that's the, and she did move me along to the hiring manager. So I now knew the job was somewhere between $100,000 and $200,000. But it's easy to do that when you're talking with someone, because salary then doesn't become as exclusionary as maybe if you just put a number on a piece of paper. After you speak with HR, still discussing, you'll meet with the hiring manager. And the hiring manager will ask the same question. Now, why will the hiring manager ask the same question? The hiring manager probably didn't talk to the HR person. That's probably why. Or didn't read the notes that the HR person provided. But it's the same thing. Discuss your salary range. It tends, unfortunately, to be a very early question in the interview. Tell me about yourself, how much you're looking to make, and do you know about what we do? So, same thing. You can use that same salary range. I would not veer off the range that I just told HR in the last discussion. So I would keep that consistent. After you're speaking with the hiring manager, if they liked what you had to say in the interview, salary aside, you may be meeting the division manager, your boss's boss. And it really becomes the same thing. Discuss that realistic range. Now, in the interview process, you'll have the opportunity to talk about what are the roles and responsibilities, what are the duties that I have, what are some of the challenges in the office, all the things that will help you make a decision, because you're interviewing them as well. You'll make you understand if this is a position that you want. You may not want the position because it's a messed up organization and it's really a problem. Or maybe you like the challenge of a messed up organization, and because it's messed up, you need big money. So you're trying to form all that information for yourself. And so then what happens is they'll make you an offer. When they make you an offer, now you're negotiating. It doesn't matter what you wrote on the application, and the range is a little less important, especially that $100,000 to $200,000 range. Now that you've had the opportunity to discuss the position with the organization, the hiring organization, you kind of know, well, even though the range is, using that accounting position, 80 to 90,000, there are a lot of responsibilities in this position. I should be getting close to $90,000. So you're going to be negotiating the higher number. If you realize that it's not so much the case, maybe you could be a little bit more flexible. And then the last point is, you started work, you've got the job, and now you realize I should have asked for more money. It's too late. You can't say a few weeks after you start, I need more money. Now, you can possibly negotiate a year later or whenever they do their annual review process, and you probably can't go from the position of, listen, you've been underpaying me for a year, give me the big money. But you can really talk about the context of the challenges of the job and why it deserves a level that's higher. So don't wait until the job started to start negotiating. And by the way, this is a process that really becomes the same anytime you need to negotiate. You're buying a new house, or you're selling a house, you start from a certain position. You're buying a new car or a used car, you start from a certain position. You take that test drive, where you walk around the house, now you know, is the asking price realistic or not? Negotiating steps are really the same. But before you negotiate, know that salary is not the only thing that you can negotiate for. There are other things that you may be able to negotiate for in addition to additional money. Work-life balance. You may be able to get flex time. You may be able to work some or all days from home. The neighbor behind me, very friendly with my backyard neighbors, well, they're not in my backyard, they're the house beyond my backyard. The wife just took a job, lives here in New Jersey, Princeton Junction. The wife just took a job in Seattle. Now, they happen to vacation a lot in Seattle, so 2 or 3 times a year they vacation in Seattle and she'll visit the office. The rest of the time she's working remotely. She was able to negotiate that. They liked her as an employee. So sometimes you can do that. Sometimes you can negotiate some days off or some days at home and some days in the office. There are other cash opportunities. You might get a sign-on bonus. 2 companies, I got sign-on bonuses. You might get an end of year, that's what EOI means, EOI bonus. Maybe your salary is hourly, so you can get paid for overtime. If you're gonna work more than 35 or 40 hours a week, whatever they consider overtime, you can earn that. You have reimbursable expenses. It could be a benefit or something that they'll offer you specifically as an enticement, whatever those are. So you can ask for those things. Make sure you understand the benefits. Some companies have more basic benefits, some have more comprehensive benefits. So medical and dental, they're kind of the ones that most people are used to. Maybe there's club memberships. Maybe they can reimburse your dues to industry organizations or health clubs. Maybe tuition reimbursement, maybe get stock options if the company does well. So those are benefits you may get as well. What kind of retirement plan options do they have? What's their match rate? When do you become eligible? A lot of people don't think about that. The last company I joined them in February, not this past February, a few years ago. And then I asked them about their retirement plan. They said, well, retirement plans, people are eligible to join always at the first of the year. And so I said, I'm joining in February. Is that close enough? No. So I actually had to wait until January to be eligible. So I lost the opportunity for matching and such for about 10 months. Is that important to you? Some companies say the start of the next month, you get in right away. Personal time off, PTO, what plans do they have? What's available? How many vacation days do they give? Are they tiered? So lower level people get 2 weeks, mid-level managers get 3 weeks, high level people get 4 weeks. Or maybe it's by years of service. After 5 years of service, you get 3 weeks. And then after 10 years, you get 4 weeks. Maybe it's something like that. You might be able to negotiate a higher vacation plan. And I've done that twice, where I said, look, I'm coming from this company with more time than you're giving me. Will you give me the extra week? And that's something negotiable. How many holidays did it take? Flex time, all that kind of stuff. If you want some resources for finding salary, here are some places you can look. Now, later you'll be able to download the slide deck, and these links are actually live. So if you see the mouse moving there, it's a live link. So download the PDF later, and you can check these. BLS is Bureau of Labor Statistics. It's basically the government, the statistics that they have, and these other sites as well. Do make sure that you put in criteria like the geography that you're job hunting as well. You might live in central New Jersey. You might want to work in Manhattan or Philadelphia. The cities may pay a little bit more than suburban locations. Or maybe you're looking to work remotely, like my neighbor who's working in Seattle. I don't know what pay rates are. She's a bookkeeper. I don't know what the pay rates are in Seattle. She had to understand that. So some basic rules for negotiating. So first of all, you got the offer. So congratulations. This is the best time to negotiate. The reason why, they want you. Hiring organizations don't want you to say no, because then they have to interview people again. And companies hate to interview people. Hiring managers within the company hate the process more than the company itself. Because as a hiring manager, I was never trained on how to interview. I wanted people working for me and being productive. I was always frustrated when there was turnover. It was just very disruptive. Best time to negotiate is when you get the offer. They expect it. It's not unusual. Make sure you understand what is important to you. You've interviewed them as much as they've interviewed you. Make sure you understand within the job what's important to you, but also understand what's important to them. Why are they hiring you? What is it in your background that is good for them? Hiring is a very selfish process. So you want to make sure you understand what's important to them, why they want you, and you need to understand about the job. Don't negotiate with the perspective that I have to win this negotiation. Negotiating is not a winning endeavor. You negotiate to win-win. So you only negotiate with someone to win when you never have to deal with them again. If you're going to sell your car to someone, you can hold out for the top dollar that you want. If you're going to sell your house, you can hold out for the top dollar. You're never going to deal with these people again. If you're going to work with these people day in and day out, then you are going to see these people regularly, and you're not going to want to upset them by being hard-nosed in your negotiation. So your goal really should be to find a mutually acceptable compromise. You give a little, you get a little, and it gives both of you as much as you want as possible. Or I think in politics they say you compromise so neither party is happy. So that's the politics joke. But the theme is kind of the same. You may want 10 things, they may want 8 things, but you get 5 and they get 3, and then they're happy with that. Especially in working for a company. You gotta work with these people 8+ hours a day. And then for negotiating the offer, speak with the HR people, specifically the benefits administration people. Make sure you understand the benefits package. See if they'll either give you a copy of the employee manual, and some companies will not, but see if you can come to the office and read the employee manual. Make sure you understand your obligation as an employee. There may be things that are very positive, and there may be things that are less so. Take company culture into consideration. Take your commuting time into consideration. Make sure you understand what your day-to-day life is going to be like. Right? Some people don't mind getting on the train and going, an hour plus or a bus an hour plus to a commute. Some people want a short commute. Maybe you like the people you met. Maybe you think they're all cranky. Can you work with them? Make sure you know your role and your value in that role. And how did they find you? It's because it's how you've promoted yourself, the value that you have. Make sure you understand what their requirement is and how you are suited to fit it. And start from a place from agreement, which is basically, thank you, I'm very interested in this job. Let them know that you want the position as much as they want you. If you start off hemming and hawing, going, well, this is not exactly what I was thinking about, that really, from a negotiating point of view, is very hard to do. But if you start from a point of agreement, then all you got to do is seal the deal. So ask for what you want, ask for what you need, and explain your reasons why it's important. Now, there are reasons that are valid for business, and there are reasons that are not. Well, I really need $5,000 more because I'm sending my kids to a good college. No, that's not what companies are really interested in. But if you say something like, the demands of this position are going to be a lot of overtime, working with people that are in other departments that are not typical in this role, it's a lot more demanding. That's why I want $5,000 more. And you could wordsmith it a little, but that may be more relevant. So support your reasons with your value, what you've talked about in your promotion of yourself. As you know, I've been negotiating with people across divisions my entire career. I'm very effective at getting people to work together. So if there's a concern or consideration that you have to justify more money, demonstrate not only why within the organization, but how you solve it. And then expect a counteroffer. And this may go back 2 or 3 times. With one company, actually the last company I worked with full time, for myself, I negotiated $15,000 more and 1 extra week of vacation. They actually very much lowballed me on the price. So the $15,000 more was the minimum I was willing to take for the position, but they were really lowballing me. But I demonstrated why I felt I'd be important for the job and why it was important for me to have the extra week of vacation. And so I was able to get that. There were 1 or 2 other things I asked for that they couldn't give me, and I conceded there. So remember, win-win. So as we wrap up, your brand is what other people say about you when you're not in the room. I just love this quote. I don't know that I'm going to ride in Jeff Bezos's rocket, but I love this quote. This was very good. Your personal brand does help you stand out from other people like you. The other people like you, by the way, are your competition in the job market, because typically the employer is looking to fill a position with 1 person. You want to stand out from the others that they're interviewing. You want to create a branding message. You want to create a brand that unifies your presence both in person and online. You want your messaging to be consistent and the same. Hopefully you'll get referrals as well. And develop SAR stories to promote your brand and promote your value. Not just bullet points of a few words, but real whole sentences. And then now negotiate from a well-informed position and negotiate professionally so that you win-win. Get as much as you can as possible, and knowing you may have to give up a few things because it's for the greater good of the opportunity and longevity of your career. And so that is our program today. And for those of you who want to download this slide deck, shortly we will be posting it. So it's not there right now, but this is the PSG of Mercer County website. Every page on the PSG of Mercer County website has this sidebar on the right side, and there's the arrow pointing that says meeting presentation documents. I'm letting you know right now, the website does not have a red arrow, but instead it does have a link, meeting presentation documents. So click there, a new page will open up, and for this year, there'll be single line entries, links to all of our programs. Actually, at the bottom, there'll be links for prior years as well. We go back to 2013. We have a tremendous amount of documentation that's there. Right below that is the link for YouTube. So later today, this presentation will be on our YouTube channel. This will be our 144th presentation on YouTube, so we have a lot of resources that are there. And by the way, that's going to be very helpful, our YouTube channel. For those of you that will not be able to join us in Princeton after this week, if you still need resources and need to see presentations, check out our YouTube channel. Share our YouTube channel with friends. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel. That way, anytime we publish new information, you'll get an email through Google about that as well. And so, any questions? Everyone's been a little quiet, which has been fine. Any other questions or any questions? We have only one from David before. By the way, I think I have to give you 50 cents. David's on the executive committee. If the executive committee asks questions, it seems like he's a ringer. And he's sucking up. He's got his aloha shirt too. Very tasteful. By the way, this is juice, not water, called POG, P-O-G. It is an Hawaiian beverage. Passion fruit, orange, and guava.
I said the color looks nice.
Yeah, it's kind of a pinkish color, yeah. Virtually, anybody have a question you want to put in chat or quickly unmute before we wrap up? There's nothing in chat. Yeah, as we expected, we're a little bit of a smaller group today.
David?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I just want to say thank you for all that you do. I want to say thank you for all that you do to coordinate this. I'll be one of those that can attend in person, so I just wanted to say it now.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the kind words. I'm sorry you won't be able to visit us in Princeton. Of course, maybe come once just to kind of visit us if you're close enough to. But yeah,
Will do.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thanks, Debbie. Yeah, Jane, a question?
Yes, I have a question. Thank you. It was very invigorating talk, and I have a lot of the solid bits and pieces for any person who are interested in applying for a job. Some tips I would appreciate. I guess my question is that how you offer suggestions to a person if their career path has been a little bit intermittently, like maybe 10 years in journalism, 10 years in teaching, and 10 years in public relations. And now this person, after 30 years, she or he recognized, oh, I want to go back to PR. I want to go back to project management. And then should this person highlight only the 10 years of the one that is more relevant to the job? Or you would recommend, because it's part of your employment history, somehow you should, with some strategy, downplay the other ones, or tell all about your past without any pick and choose. Any suggestion?
So yes, I'll give you my opinion. There's no one right answer. It depends on your approach. My opinion would be, typically, you promote your last 10 or 15 years or so because they're more relevant and currently aligned. But in the case of someone who is looking to revisit a path of their career that maybe they started out, you are going to want to highlight that. But from the position more of the soft skills than the hard skills. Because you may say, I was in public relations and I was very good using a teletype, and boy, was I a good teletype person. There's no teletype anymore. So you can't really talk about how good of a teletype person. But when you talk about communication strategy or means of connecting with people or ways of expressing articles or ways of making announcements, so the approach to doing your work becomes relevant. On your resume and your LinkedIn profile, what you may want to do is make that section from 10 or 20 years ago a little bit more robust, as if it was current, but with a lot of the soft skills. The career path in the middle, you might just put a couple of simple bullet points. Or just that I worked at this company for these few years, and a couple of things that are soft skill relevant. And then maybe the soft skills that are relevant for the most current position. Because what you're doing is you're selling yourself with the skills that are relevant to that former PR position. And also, as you self-reflect, and we talked about that at the beginning, make sure you understand for yourself why did your career evolve in the path that it did? And what is it about your career journey that has kept you interested in going back to the PR stuff? Because that's going to be part of the story you tell of why you're sitting in the chair across from the interviewer.
From your perspective, is if you are on the hiring manager level, will you consider these type of candidate? I'm not supposed to use the word type, categorize is not really good, but will you? So from your.
So if I was a hiring manager,
Yeah, if you are a hiring manager, then will you consider a person that has covered different like categories, different kind of the jobs that they are relevant, but it's will you consider it's a strong candidate, or you will think like you give an example, you said you can't talk about you want to be an accountant, and then you also in another interface you were talking about the animal, the petting, the husband industry, even though you are interested in the field. Will that person's many years covering different type of fields cause or create such an image to the hiring person? Or if you are the hiring person, how do you see an applicant or a potential candidate with such a kind of verified background? Is that considered as a plus or a noun?
So hiring, if you're going to ask another question, hold on to that. Hiring is a very selfish process. So if I had a position available and you were a candidate in front of me, what I want to know, how are you going to make my life easier? That's all I'm interested in. And do I think I can work with you for 8 hours a day? Those are the two things that are most important to me. And if my position is one of public relations, if that's using that, but you also have the interest in animal husbandry, and I ask you a question about, tell me about yourself. Oh, I just love raising dogs, and this is my favorite breed, and this is what I do, and I've joined the club. If you're selling yourself about something that's not about what I want, I'm not going to invite you back for the interview. Now, there's nothing wrong with bringing up personal interests or other interests. They may connect with me. Oh, I'm a dog lover too. It's what breed do you know, we may have that discussion. But professionally, it's less relevant. So it's nice that you have these other interests. Your core, when you talk about answering interview questions, but you're really going to answer them in the context of either soft skills from the animal husbandry. Oh, when I raise this animal, here's how I solved the problem that you're discussing, because I had to do that in the same organization there. Or give me the hard skill that you've used that matches exactly what I want. Does that address what you're looking for? But remember, hiring is a selfish process. You can't put everything out there, give your resume that you want, and expect me to figure out how you fit. You have to show me how you fit. So bring out the things that are relevant to this job that I have posted.
But don't delete anything.
No, but you don't delete it, that's right. But you may not write a lot about stuff that doesn't pertain to this job, even though it may be a big part of your background.
When they are looking at a person's resume, because earlier you gave the examples, you're saying the SAR, situation, action, and result, right? Were those two examples you showed? And I'm not quite sure about the second one. I don't think the second one is something kind of like on a bonus bragging sheet, because when you're dealing with the crisis or when you're dealing with the challenge, most of the time you want to open all the outlets that people can sit down and talk. So that is I would say the step one to really start a conversation. So that second example, I'm not saying it's not going to be a good one. I'm just saying like the first one I like more than the second one personally. Yeah. But is that supposed to be in the resume or supposed to be in the cover letter?
I would put that in the resume.
Oh.
And the reason why is the hiring manager, now I'm a big fan of cover letters.
Mm-hmm.
The cover letter supports what you're writing about in the resume. It also becomes a little bit more personal to the person you're writing to. The resume is really, or the LinkedIn profile or a social media profile, is where those SAR stories are.
Oh.
Right.
Dave, do you mind sharing a resume like that type of format with me?
So two things. One is we do have on our website a section where we have sample resumes. So you can look at our website. I think on the same sidebar with the meeting presentation document, but further down, there's a link. The other thing, since you're in the meeting room, there are two career coaches here. There's Gary on your right and Alan behind you, and you may want to talk with either of them more specifically.
Yeah. Thank you.
And they are both fans of good resumes and cover letters. Yeah, well, thank you for your very interesting questions. Anything else, folks, before we formally wrap up?
David, I have a question, and
Yeah,
it's concerning the SAR bullet points that you showed. These bullet points are rather long, so would you suggest to include longer bullet points in a resume, or what? Do I understand you correctly there?
My suggestion is to use the SAR format. If you think it was a little wordy, maybe you could remove a few words, but I think it becomes more powerful to put a SAR than just the bullet that was there. Efficient at Excel, or how I've used Excel because it's situation actual result. But remember, when we talked about the SAR, I talked about there's a lot of information that I didn't express in the SAR. You know, how long was the old end of month process? How many people were on the team? I didn't write all that stuff. It wasn't a blog post. It wasn't, you know, that sort of thing. What I wanted from the SAR was to demonstrate why I'm efficient in using either this tool and encourage the conversation.
Thank you.
If it means that your resume becomes, instead of 2 pages, 3 pages, that's fine. I'm of the opinion that there's no one right-sized resume for everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, thanks for the question. Anything else, folks? Okay. Well, thank you very much for allowing me onto your computers and joining us today. So glad you're able to join us.